Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Balanced Approach podcast. I'm your host, Louis Padian. Make sure you are subscribed wherever you get your podcasts to be kept up to date. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Balanced Approach podcast. I didn't want to just leave the New Year's resolution topic alone, as I know a lot of people will be going through and finding it difficult, tough, and hopefully today's episode will help support people in making sure that they're more successful than they were likely to be, and hopefully able to maintain whatever healthful habits they are aiming to do over the next couple of weeks, months, and hopefully years. People really struggle with when the motivation disappears, really. And often one of the things that can be helpful that people aren't very good at, well, they might be good at certain aspects of it, is reviewing their progress and looking at what is an area that we could improve in, but also, really importantly, what's currently going well and why it's going well. So I thought it'd be good to give you a quick behind the scenes review template that I often discuss through with a lot of patients and clients when we're looking at their goals each week, each month, however often we catch up. So reflection's a really important part of the process, because if we don't really know what we're doing, or if we aren't aware of what's going well, what's not going well, then we don't know where to focus our effort and energy, which means we're just sort of like white knuckling, really, which I refer to holding on as hard and as long as possible until we can't cope any longer, when it doesn't need to be this way. Often we can just simply slowly adjust things and make sure that, right, the things that we're doing well, let's keep on doing those. And what areas can we improve on? And as I said, some people are really good at reviewing, but only reviewing the things that they're not currently doing and beating themselves up as a consequence. They're constantly focusing on things that they're not currently doing, and that's the reason they're not succeeding. Actually, maybe we need to have a look at the whole picture and see what you're currently doing well. And this will allow yourself to cut yourself a bit of slack, and then hopefully give yourself permission to try a little bit more in some of the other areas or try something new. The reason that we encourage reflection is because it's really powerful in so many different ways. So it can help with motivation. So again, one of the part that we really focus on, or I focus on, especially with my clients and patients, is celebrating successes when people are doing really well. And that isn't just on outcomes, but that can just be on the process as well. So whilst outcomes might not be where we want them to be, or might not be showing the results that they probably deserve, often we need to encourage and make sure we're celebrating people just engaging in the process. Yes, they might want to lose weight, which I imagine a lot of people will be focusing on at the moment, which might involve moving a little bit more, eating a bit better. And in the first week, you might see a fair amount of weight loss. You might not see any at all. You might see some this week and none next week. But you might continue to do the same things on both weeks. We need to encourage that. We need to encourage the effort and consistency and the process and building those habits long term. And with that, yes, we'll review the outcomes as well, where the scales are going, how our steps metrics, those sort of things, how clothes are fitting, whatever you want to measure as an outcome metric. But we can't lose sight of actually that isn't always the be all end all. I think it's just about us looking at, right, how can we build health as a process rather than just trying to aim for this arbitrary outcome of a weight measurement, for example. So it's really helpful for motivation. It's really good for awareness. With any sort of change in behaviour, awareness is always the first step. If we're not aware of it, then we're not able to change it or influence it. So building that self-awareness through self-reflection is really important, not just in regards to your health, but your overall well-being, your professional career, your social relationships, all other areas of life. And again, that probably links in quite closely with mindfulness. So having awareness of what's going on without judgment, particularly as well, and being able to be quite observant without you using an opportunity to beat yourself up is a really good part of this process with reflection. Other things, reducing your stress and anxiety. Again, there are lots of potential stresses in life, and self-reflection can help reduce anxiety and improve our overall mental well-being. Again, like I said, if you're trying really hard and things aren't going your way, it can be really difficult. And again, it feels like there's something wrong with you, that maybe you're not deserving of the success that you want. And actually, if we can build that awareness and reflect on what we're currently doing, then we're able to sort of realise why things might not be going the way that we want them to be. There are lots of other reasons around self-reflection it being hugely beneficial. One of them is around enhanced problem solving as well. This will help us pick apart what's currently holding us back, and this is where the conversation, especially with the coach, can be really useful, as they can potentially ask questions that we're not asking ourselves or get us to reflect on things that we're not currently thinking about. But ensuring that environment is in a non-judgmental environment as well, that it isn't down to you not being good enough, not wanting it enough, that those are things that are rarely the case. Often people are genuinely trying their best, and a lot of people are just keeping their head above water in other aspects as well. So us throwing other things into the mix around step targets, trying to eat a lot better, trying to manage their social habits and their relationships as well. It's just adding further stress on there, and actually us being able to sit down and focus on, right, what can we take away rather than what can we continue to add on top of you to give you space and capacity to deal with the things that you want to deal with, and potentially having a different approach to those can be really, really useful. So again, reflection, even just by yourself, you don't need to sit down with someone. It could just be a little bit of journaling, looking at what went well each day. Those sort of things can be really, really useful as well. But here's the actual framework that I would recommend or use a lot often with clients in conversation. And it's quite a simple one. It's quite easy to follow, so you might want to write some of this down. But first part is, right, what's went well this week? So, or it could be today. Often when I'm trying to get someone to be more compassionate and sort of less judgmental in themselves, one of the tasks I will set is reflecting on things that went well that day. And it could be simple things like getting yourself out of bed. It could be making the bed. It could be saying hello to or catching up with a friend. It could be having one portion of fruits and vegetables, anything at all. Just noticing things that have gone well or you've done well that day, because we have got a very good negative bias where we constantly probably a bit more critical than we need to be of ourselves, and us trying to tone that back towards a bit more positive and realizing that we're probably not as bad as we think we are at these things can be really, really useful, and hopefully take a lot of pressure off yourself in trying to be perfect. So looking at what went well in terms of, if we're looking at weight loss, in terms of your eating, your movement, your overall well-being. And it could be that you've eaten really well this week. Fantastic. Let's go a bit deeper than that. Why has that happened? What's allowed you to do that this week? What things have you put in place? What other things have happened? You might have had a week off, which has given you more time to be able to prep your meals or eat at home. You might have had you might have planned your meals ahead of time as well when you do your food shop. One of the things I work on a lot with people is the food shop planner, which can be really useful and save you a lot of time further down the line when it comes to the week. So just to walk you through that, planning your meals before you do your weekly food shop, looking at what you've currently got in the cupboards, making sure that we're not overbuying produce, but also having a bit of a structure to the week. So when you have a full-on day at work, one, you might have a simple packed lunch that you've got with you, or you know what option you're having for lunch. So on the fly during the day, you're not feeling overwhelmed on what's the best option for you because you've almost predetermined that. Then when you get home, you're knackered, you might have got up early and gone for a walk or gone to the gym, for example, that you're not turning up looking at the fridge going, what am I even going to cook tonight? What have I got in? Actually, I thought about that on Saturday or Sunday, and I know what I've got in. I know what I've got planned to cook tonight. I'm going to know how long it's going to take me to cook. And I also know the recipe as well, which saves you a lot of mental stress and worry. So that's past you looking after future you. So that's something that could be really helpful in that understanding why that's happened. Part of this as well is that if things have gone well this week, for example, you might have had the week off, and next week things don't go so well. You're going, well, what was the difference? Well, actually, you might have had a lot more time that allowed you, giving yourself more time to prep your meals, to go for walks, to not be as stressed because you're not at work, all these sorts of things. So understanding the why behind things can be really, really enlightening and help us understand why things are currently going so well, but also what things in the future might trip us up further down the line. The next bit is probably something that we're quite familiar with, is looking at things that didn't go so well that week. And I wouldn't say areas that we failed or be quite negative with the language there. I think it's about it didn't go so well. And often it isn't a simple pass or fail. It's sort of a sliding scale. So if you've aimed to go out for for example, you go into the gym, one of the more popular things during the January time is I'm going to go to the gym 5 days this week. Instead of going, I failed to do that, how many times did you manage to get there? Well, I got there once or twice. Well, bro, that's still not a complete failure. It's not as many as we planned to do. Maybe our expectations weren't realistic there. Maybe there was reasons why we couldn't go, and that's completely fine, because next week we'll be able to get to those 4 to 5 sessions. But understanding why that didn't happen, rather than just going, right, I failed at that, and then almost jumping on the bandwagon of, right, I didn't do that, I'm useless, I'm never going to be able to do this, what's the point, I might as well cancel my gym membership now. That's not productive conversations, because that's not going to lead to any sort of positive action moving forward. So understanding what didn't go so well this week, where it sort of fell on that scale, but also understanding why did that happen? Was it something that was within our control? Was it something outside of our control? The next step to this part is right, what can we change next week to hopefully get a better outcome? Not necessarily a perfect outcome, because that could be miles away from where we want to be, and often perfection's unrealistic. So if we manage to go to the gym once this week, we're aiming for 5, well, maybe next week we still aim for 1, but hopefully plan a second session in. How am I going to make sure that happens? What sort of things are within my control there? Potentially might be things that are outside of your control that stops you from achieving whatever you wanted to this week, and that's completely fine as well, but understanding them. Another interesting part of this is, were those things expected? If it was something popped up and you completely out of the blue, well, that's in the grand scheme of things, that's a really good lesson for us to learn there, because that's something new that we might not have been aware of beforehand. So maybe we can think about ways to overcome that obstacle next time. If it's something that we were aware of, then maybe we weren't well equipped with the ways to get around that obstacle. So it might be confidence with the tools to overcome that, or having a look at other tools potentially to overcome that, moving forward and trying something new. And this is all about trial and error. Yes, there might be some things in your past that can be really useful in maybe picking a better tool to overcome those challenges, and there might be something from my perspective, we're working together, that I go, actually, somebody in a similar situation in the past found this really useful, and maybe you'll find it useful too. Might not always work, but it can hopefully lead to better outcomes sooner as well. So simply, what went well? Why did it go well? What didn't go so well? Why didn't that go so well? And what can we do in the future to hopefully get a better outcome next time? So those are the first 2 steps. The last one is committing to what we're going to do. And this can be simply put into 3 categories. And I've started doing this in recent years because I found, and this was probably me being a newer coach at the time, but I found at the time that I was giving these really in-depth instructions to clients that I was working with. And actually, when I sat down and reflected on it, when I was a rugby player, if I was given really in-depth and a list as long as my arm at half time, for example, the game isn't going so well and we're trying to improve things, when I'm halfway out the door, I'm probably going to have forgotten most of those things already. So actually simplifying our messaging, simplifying that message moving forward into 3 simple categories, and having 1, 2, maybe 3 things in each category. Probably wouldn't have more than 2 in each one, and overall probably wouldn't have more than 4 or 5. But what things can I start doing this week? So out of all the things that we've addressed, things that are going well, potentially we might start something to help increase that, how well that's going next week, or we might start something to hopefully improve on something that didn't go so well last week. Next up, what can I stop doing? What can I currently stop doing? So it could be something around, I could stop taking chocolate with me to work each day because I'm overeating on that, and I find it's really setting me up for bad habits moving forward, or packing too much in my lunchbox, or I could stop leaving it so late on my alarm in the morning and mean that I'm missing my gym sessions. I could stop going to bed so late, which is causing me to not have enough sleep when I'm getting up in the morning. There's so many different things we could look at. And again, there might be 2 sides to this. So I could start going to bed earlier, and I could stop forgetting to set my alarm. Again, 2 steps to that one. Last but not least, and this is something that people often forget, is what can I continue to do? Often there are things that we are doing currently that are continuing that if we continue to do, will continue working. And when I'm working with patients and clients, often they'll turn to me and go, right, what more can I do? And I go, actually, you're doing enough, because if you continue to do X, Y, Z, 1, 2, 3, whatever we're focusing on, it could be continue to hit their steps, eating fruit and veg, hitting their protein and managing their sleep. Those are pretty core things to what can take you a hell of a long way towards your health and well-being goals. Often we can continue to do those things, not add too much more to the mix, and make really, really good progress. And my job as a coach sometimes isn't just pushing people forward, but also holding them back as well, because we're really good at setting ourselves up for failure, taking on too much, underestimating how much we can achieve in a long period of time just by being consistent. And that's a big part of my job. So again, the last 3 steps there are: what can I start doing? What can I stop doing? What can I continue doing? Making those messaging towards yourself and those commitments really, really simple. If we're looking for weight loss, for example, it could be, right, I'm going to start bringing a packed lunch to work with me every day. I'm going to stop forgetting to set my alarm every night before I go to bed. And I'm going to continue to get out for a 10-minute walk each day. They're simple, 3 simple things. And you might go, that's not enough, Louis. I need more. You probably don't. And often people feel like they need to do more in a way to almost self-sabotage themselves moving forward, that if I keep adding things to the list, then it'll probably make it easier for me to fail, and that will probably prove myself right. When actually, if we set things too easy, it can seem a bit too easy, or a bit infantile, or that we are working within our limits. But actually, that's more than enough. We actually need to do the hard thing, which is holding ourselves back a little bit. So there's lots of different ways we can approach this. There's probably different templates to use here, but my simple way to sort of look at this is reflection is so important. I think it's really important that you regularly reflect on how things are going. It could be a daily thing, could be a weekly thing, and I definitely encourage it to be a monthly thing or a quarterly thing as well within your work and personal life. And if you've got goals that you set this year, definitely reviewing them throughout the year can be really, really useful. Simple structure: what went well, what actually went well this week or today, why did it go well, and what sort of things can we do to continue to make sure those things are going well or improve them even further. What didn't go so well, so instead of looking at it as a failure, sort of looking at it on a graded scale of going, out of 10, where did I score on that? Why didn't that go well that week? What sort of obstacles did we encounter? Were they unexpected, or did we know what sort of expect them this week? And how can I overcome them moving forward? Last but not least, when we're looking at the action plan for the week, 1, 2, maybe 3 things in each category, but what am I going to start doing this week? What I'm going to stop doing this week? And what am I going to continue to do this week to continue moving forward and where I want to be? Hope that's been helpful. It's one of the things that I regularly do and structures the vast majority of my sort of conversation with clients and patients. So I hope it's useful in the early new year that people are going through these sort of teething issues with healthy habits and goals. And I look forward to speaking to you soon.
Thank you very much for listening to the Balanced Approach podcast. If you have any questions, queries, or would like to reach out to me, please do. I am at Louis Padian Nutrition, which is at LOUISPADIAN Nutrition on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and all social media platforms. If you're looking for support in achieving your goals and living a healthier and happier and more balanced life in the process, just click the link below and inquire about working with me. But remember to subscribe wherever you're listening, share it if you think that people might find it useful, and I shall speak to you soon.